Fairy garden things are all the rage, and miniatures are always popular. And miniature fairy gardens, like this one in a teacup, are a lot of fun to look at and to make. Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome to another polymer clay video at keepsakecrafts.net. So our project naturally begins with a teacup. And you can find these at like Salvation Army, flea markets, yard sales. This one I think was $2 at my Salvation Army and $1 on Half Price Day. Sometimes you get them with saucers, more often not. You can find ones with fancier decorations and ones that's simpler. Just pick one that suits your taste. So the first thing we need to do is fill up most of this teacup because we don't need most of the space. And the best thing to use for that is just some aluminum foil. So you just crumple maybe 3 or 4 feet off a 12-inch wide roll. Crumple it, stuff it down in there. Don't pack it too tight because we're going to be inserting toothpicks in a bit and you want to be able to do that. And this isn't quite full enough for me. I want it a little bit higher. Instead of crumpling more foil on top of it, what I'm going to do is take another sheet. Sorry, this is kind of noisy. And put it underneath it and crumple over top. That way my ball of foil will be all one solid piece. It just seems like that would make the most sense. I'm not gluing this in here right now because I may want to move it around later. And I want kind of a little hill. So I'm leaving the edges lower, and you can build that up with clay. And then just some scraps of clay. I pulled out some greens and browns and just kind of rip them into little pieces. Not too little, but rip them into bits and place them all around. This will mostly be covered up, but you just want to make sure that you're not going to see any foil. And I have a ball tool here that I'm going to use to kind of mush all of that down. If you search online, like look on Pinterest for fairy garden teacup, you'll find all sorts of ideas. Different things to put in them, different shapes, different ways to build them. There's some really cute ones that have actual real plants in them. There's a garden center near me that has an entire section full of little itty plants with little itty bitty leaves that are just right for putting in a fairy garden. But right now in New England, we are experiencing ridiculous cold, like I think 20 below with the wind chill. Just so cold. So I'm not going outside. I'm not going out shopping. I'm not even going to go out and get stones or rocks, which I had thought would look cute in here. No, sorry. I'd like to not go out until March, if that's okay. Sometimes I can understand why people will hole up in a cabin on a mountain and they just don't come out until spring. So you just keep going until you have this all down and all of the foil covered, which as you can see doesn't take long. So there, that looks good. That's all filled up. I do like that a lot of it is still below the top of the teacup rim. That's just kind of the look I envision. Now I'm going to be making my little houses with pearl clay, which is close enough to white that I want to wash my hands really well. Even find somewhere around here I have some sacrificial clay. You've probably seen this idea before, but if you haven't, if you're working with dark colors or strong colors like red and then you need to move to working with white, it's a good idea to just take a piece of scrap clay, light colored scrap clay, sacrificial clay, and just knead it, especially in the fingers that you usually use to work with clay. Because it's amazing to me when I work with red clay how much is still left in my fingerprints, and then I go to work with white and no matter how much I clean my fingers, there's still this red fingerprint on the white. So this is a good little trick. Now you can make your houses any color you want. I just felt like making mine pearl. So you condition a little bit of pearl, and you could do this any way you want. This was just a way to get the look I wanted. You could shape your houses just by hand and leave a soft edge. But I kind of wanted to make a crisp edge. Since these are so small, I just thought it would look better in miniature to have a nice crisp edge. So you want to roll yourself some clay that's bigger than the house you want to make. And then what we're going to do is use the clay blade to slice away the excess, and that will leave some nice sharp corners. Maybe I want it a little taller. So then just use your clay blade to slice 2 sides, and then 2 more sides, and then depending on what kind of roof line you want to give it. And that's the trickiest part I found, is getting that roof kind of even. Actually, if you make a little mark, then you can see. There, that's better. I made myself a little tool for marking the doors and windows. This is just a sheet of clay that I rolled out on the thickest setting and then cut myself a strip and baked it. And then used the blade to cut off a clean end. And oh look, it's a little window. Isn't that cute? And then to make a door, you just travel down. You could also use things like these little 3/16 inch cutters, although this one's a flower. But why wouldn't the fairies have a flower-shaped window? And so you can just impress that in. You can use a ball tool to mark little round windows. Whatever makes you happy, whatever looks good to you. And remember, of course, this is clay. So if you don't like it, if you do something and you say, oh no, that's not what I was thinking of, you can just roll it in a ball and start again. And your second one will probably be better because you practiced on the first one. So there's the little house. And I'm going to make my roof with just a thin sheet of clay. And I mixed a little pearl in all of my roofs just because it's fairy, right? Here are a couple little houses I already made. Here's the rich people in the neighborhood and the poor people. And I had another one. Gosh, everything's missing today. And for this one, I mixed some pearl into Sculpty Souffle cherry pie. And now I had to make sure and clean my fingers after using that red. And then I mixed some blue. And you can just cut strips. So if you want to do a lot of texture and interest on your roof, you might want to bake the house first and then add the roof after. I didn't feel like waiting to bake such a tiny thing. I made mine just a little bit wider than the house is. And then a little bit longer, so that there's a bit of an overhang. And one of them you'll want to cut basically the thickness of the clay longer still, because when you put this on your roof, you're going to want to overlap the second one so that they're pretty much the same length on both sides. Isn't that cute? You could take a little time, smooth out those seams. I kind of pinched this just to give it a bit of a flare. It also helped me in smoothing out the seams. Isn't that cute? You can pinch those and curl them up. If you want to add some texture, there's a couple ways you can do that. One thing that I thought was a lot of fun was to use this. This is a bolt from Home Depot. And you just roll it one way, and you can leave it like that. Or you can roll it the other way and get that great pattern. But I thought that was just a little bit too, I don't know, too regular, I guess. And what I did was just took a needle tool to my clay. Before I cut out my strip, I just took a needle tool to it and did that in a couple directions until I liked the look. I made the little roof for the house. So cute. Oh, that's gonna be adorable. Oh my goodness. Where did my blue one go? I don't know. The one with the blue roof is missing. Cute. Okay, so that's the houses. Make as many as you like. Oh, there's the blue one. Yay. Here it is. What would a fairy garden be without some mushrooms? And I've got a super simple way of making such cute mushrooms. And that's to build them on toothpicks. And so you just roll little tiny balls. Now, I'm not worrying about proportion, trying to make these mushrooms in proportion to my houses, because it's fairyland and it wouldn't be, right? But these are maybe 5 or 6 millimeter balls, and you can do them a couple different ways. I tend to go crazy adding details. So if you roll a round ball, press it lightly into your tile, onto your tile to flatten it out. Use a very small ball tool just to press in the bottom. Don't press too deep. If you want to add the detail that I like to do, you can use a blade to kind of add the gills. Not entirely necessary, but I love doing it. Just a little, the tiniest bit of liquid clay on the end of a toothpick. And this is why you didn't want to press in too deep with the ball tool, because you wanted to leave a little bit of clay for the toothpick to stick into. So you can make them round, or if you prefer, you can make them more pointed. And you would do the same thing. Flatten it, add gills, add TLS, put it on a toothpick. I give it a twirl and kind of give it a jaunty little tilt. And I made a whole bunch ahead of time and baked them. And they're actually, that is on that toothpick pretty good. So then what you can do is paint some of it white, as much as you think is going to be left sticking up. I'm probably going to make like a little forest of the mushrooms. They won't be sticking up that high, but maybe that high. So I might paint an inch or so of the toothpick white, and then use a ball tool to add little dots of white. So we make a bunch of those. Aren't they fun? Little mushrooms. So what next? Worked with red clay. Clean your fingers. I'm going to green next, so that'll be okay. The next thing that I saw that I really, really liked in the fairy gardens were succulents. And some of them had real succulents, which I thought was pretty cool. But like I said, I'm not going out, so I'm going to have to make my own. And succulents, you can find 1,000,001 succulent tutorials on the internet, in magazines. They're all over the place these days. They're really easy to put together. If you put a fair amount of translucent in your clay, it will end up looking a little bit more realistic, depending on the type of succulent you're doing. And let's see. Roll a log of clay and, use a tool like this to just mark even pieces. I'm going to make this one a little bigger. So I rolled about a 1/4 inch log and used the 5 millimeter marks. And then you can just cut little balls. So really, succulents, it's all about just rolling a bunch of little balls. Most of the time rolling those into teardrops and then shaping them and then arranging them, and they can be arranged in different ways. And like I said, I'll leave you to seek out, if you want to make little succulents, I'll leave you to seek out tutorials. I'll give you a few links. There was a really good one in Polymer Cafe magazine. You might be able to get the back issue now that they're no longer being published. And what I found to make this go faster is to actually Do 2 at a time. I saw this trick. It was, oh, let's clay with Ewa. I haven't seen a video from her in a long time, but she's on YouTube, and I love her stuff. And I saw her, when I saw her claying with both hands at once, it was revelatory to me. I was like, oh, wow, right. Why can't you got 2 hands? Use them both at once. So roll your balls, roll teardrops. Now you can do a few things here. You can just flatten them out and use them like that. Or you can use a ball tool. This is a medium, the medium one from the Sculpt Style and Details set. And do that. Or you can leave them more tapered, more like a tube, like that. And you just start, so I'll just do this to keep it simple. It's a good idea to have a little round piece at the bottom that everything sticks to. And you just start arranging them. And you can search online for pictures of succulents to be inspired by. You can try to copy certain ones, particularly if you want. Let's see. There. And then as you go up, you kind of stagger the successive layers, have them tilt more upwards, and you just proceed like that. Here are a few that I made. This one, I just left them in tubes like this, and it's good if you want to finish the center with just a few tiny little balls. So there's that one. This is the one that I dipped into each of those with this tool. Again, finish with a few little balls. And then this one, I flattened them and just, so if you pinched and shaped them to get that kind of spiky look. So we got our teardrop. Oh yeah, that's what I did. I put a line with a needle tool, kind of pinched that closed and got that shape. You can also shape the bottom a little and then they'll fit in together a little bit better. What really sells them as succulents is when you add something to the edges. Like I added the purple perfect pearls to this one. I don't know what I added to this one. I think I added the same thing. This one got some white chalk pastel or off-white chalk pastel. So take a look at pictures of real succulents and see. That's what really kind of settles the deal, that they start looking real. And then you can make as many of these as you want. Oh, that's adorable. I think I need to make maybe a bigger one for the back. I think I want this purple one in front. So you can see as you start to do this, you're filling in, got your little forest of mushrooms, maybe a few clusters of those, some succulents. And then just because I hadn't entirely lost my mind yet, I decided to make some flowers. Oh, insanity. Look at these. These are so tiny. But won't they make a cute little garden somewhere? I'll probably just add, maybe smooth out an area of color and add these to a garden or line a path. The way those are done is I took some turnip clay and sort of started a blend with pearl and didn't finish it so that I would have a variety of colors. Use this little flower cutter to cut out these little bitty flowers. Use the smallest ball tool to just shape. Get on you. Oh no, get on there. Just kind of flatten those petals and cup them ever so lightly around the ball tool. You can kind of knock it off with your finger. And then took, oh, the tiniest ever, a thread-like bit of yellow clay. And you almost can't cut these too small. I mean, that's probably huge. It's probably twice as much as I need for that flower center. But that really kind of brings them to life. And And if you've been using your needle tool on clay, it's probably a tiny bit sticky, which is a helpful tool for popping it in there. And so you can make as many of these as sanity allows. I think I made 20. And aren't they so cute? Now I have lots more ideas, but this video is already kind of long. Funny story for you. So I started working on this one evening. Just kind of had some ideas for what I was going to do, and sat down and basically built things the same order I just showed you. Made some houses, made some mushrooms, made some succulents. And then I noticed the time, and that 2.5 hours had gone by. I had enjoyed myself, but it was heading towards bedtime, and I said, oh, you know what? I think I'll gather up what I've made and throw that in the oven so that it's baked and it won't get wrecked. And I gathered it all up, and that was all I had. 2.5 hours of work, and that was all I had. But we are making miniatures after all. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Check back next week where I will show you the finishing of the fairy garden teacup, or teacup fairy garden, and have a few more ideas for fun little details you can add. If you're interested in the supplies I used, I always have a blog post with links to products and supplies that I used in it. You can always find that by clicking on the eye in the upper right, or the link in the lower left, or in the description box. Any of those places will have a link to my blog post where you can find links to this materials that I'm using. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and take a look at my Patreon page if you'd like to get bonus tutorials. So happy creating. Bye-bye.